Hi, I'm Milt Tanzer, and I'd like to welcome you to another issue of Real Estate Investments and How to Make Them on Brief Video. These are one of several, about 15 of them I think, that we have recorded for your interest and learning experiences, hopefully, that will appear in the same place that this one is that you're looking at right now. Today I'd like to talk about no money down is investing. Contrary to what you may have heard, no money down investing usually isn't. Somewhere, some money is going to be needed. It may be for vacancy allowances, it may be for renovations, it may be for closing costs, whatever. But usually there's going to be some money required, especially if you got a property that needs renovating. There's no way you're going to put that in the mortgage or whatever. So you need some money. I'd like to tell you a little bit about a couple of the properties that I purchased with no money down. They were both different situations entirely. And I won't go into great detail here. If you want to learn the whole thing and how to do it yourself, it's in our investment courses. But let me give you a rough idea about negotiating with the bank. First of all, the first property I mentioned in one of the other videos that we laughingly called our slums, because that's what it was. The neighborhood was good, but the property was in bad shape. It was pretty much abandoned. The owner up north was about to lose it through foreclosure. I sat down with my friendly banker who had the mortgage on the property, and I put friendly in quotes because actually bankers do get friendly when you're trying to bail them out of a situation they need to get out of that the banking commission doesn't like to see, and that's property that's not producing income. We cover this in detail in another video. Anyway, we bought the slums, but prior to buying them I sat down with the banker, told him what I wanted to do. I wanted to buy them, I wanted to take over the mortgages, period. The seller had already given me permission to talk to the bank and told me that if a bank would let me take over the mortgages and get him out of it, fine. Of course, now the bank's not going to take him off the hook entirely, but I'm now on the hook ahead of him, so that's some feeling of security there. Anyway, the first thing the bank told me was, no, there's no way we're going to let you buy this property without putting any money of your own in it. Banks seem to be that way for some reason or other. I don't know why. I guess they figure I'm going to put them in the same position with that property 6 months from now that they're in right now, so why take a chance? Anyway, I requested that they reduce the mortgage. At that time they weren't ready to do that. However, they were willing, if they accepted me, they might negotiate in other ways. Well, the next thing I did was take out a series of pictures I had taken of the property. The worst views I could possibly take. The filth on the floors, including dog piles that were left by the owner and so forth. The place was an absolute trash. And the oven, my wife sprayed 2 cans of Easy Off in it, and the next day we hosed it out the back door. We didn't even want to get near enough to touch it. It was that good. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point was I laid these pictures out in front of him, showing him inside and out of this property, and said, Mr. Banker, this is what within the next month you're going to own. I'm willing to take it off your hands and renovate it and get it producing income and making mortgage payments to you, which is of utmost importance. He calmed down a little bit and said, well, let me talk to our committee that meets next Monday. I said, okay, that'll be fine. He called me the next day and said, well, I discussed it with several members of the committee. They're going to let you do it. So here again, it worked out fine. Incidentally, I kept this property. If you want to see how I kept it for about a year. If you want to see how it turned out, it's in one of the e-books that we have that's included with our investment course. The other property was in good condition, in a great neighborhood, and an owner who was just retired and he wanted to move back up north to be near his family as he got older. So he wasn't motivated to sell that much. The only thing that was good was he owned this property free and clear, and he was willing to finance it, so he didn't have to go through a lender. That's always good news. Incidentally, you'll find if you go through our course that using the owner of the property, even as a second mortgage, which a lot of people frown on, but you won't after you learn how to use it properly, that the owner is the best, easiest, and least expensive way generally to get financing. So anyway, I worked with this guy for quite some time trying to convince him to sell it to me. Finally got down to the point where, okay, your price is okay, but I can't live, I'm not going to sell it to you without some cash. And at that time he only wanted $25,000 down. Well, I managed to borrow the money from a friend of mine, and he got it from by borrowing against some stocks that he held. Incidentally, If you need cash and you have a sizable stock portfolio, you can borrow money against your stock. And believe it or not, at least under present conditions, you can borrow more money against stock if you're going to use it to buy real estate than you can to buy more stock. So that tells you how convinced the stock people are that their product is the best. Anyway, that's beside the point. I managed to buy the property, turned around and held it for a few years and resold it at a sizable profit. And my only investment in it was $25,000, which paid for itself over and over again. There's a lot more to both of these stories that you can learn about in the ebooks that accompany, or the ebook that accompanies my course. Now, where do you find cash? If you have a whole life insurance policy, which is the kind that builds up equity, you can borrow against that. The interest rate is usually quite low. The only problem is if you borrow against that equity, it reduces the dollar value, the cash value of your life insurance should you need to collect it, or since your heirs need to collect it someday when something happens to you. So you may want to think twice about it. Now, if you work it right and if you know what you're doing, if you take one of our courses, you won't have the problem of worrying about whether or not the cash you borrowed from your life insurance is going to not pay itself back. It'll pay itself back many times over. I mentioned already that borrowing against existing stock is an inexpensive way or a good way to borrow money if you don't mind doing it. Savings account and tax-exempt bonds and things like that, CDs, if you got a sizable amount of money or at least enough money to make a down payment on something in there, you can use some of that. I advise my customers, clients, never borrow all of it. Always leave a substantial reserve for yourself for emergency purposes. Now, there's a couple of gurus out there that are promoting borrow against your home equity loans and so forth. Well, this is fine unless you're of the school that says, I want my home paid off as soon as I can for security purposes. I have other investors who finance their home up to the hilt in order to be able to buy real estate with it. But this is something you want to consider carefully before you do it. The other possible place that is really horrible that these people advocate, borrow money on your cash value of your credit cards. Now that has to be an absolute ludicrous way to borrow money, because there's no way you're going to be able to pay a credit card company 18 to 20% interest on money that you borrow to buy real estate that may produce 10% return. Now I realize I'm not considering the other ways you're making money on real estate. I'm talking here about total cash flow, the money that you have to pay off that credit card month by month. Don't borrow against your credit cards. Wait until you find some other way to buy a property. Now, for more details on all these things, for a complete course in real estate investing, you can start out with as little as an ebook for $10 in our program, or all the way up to a full-blown audio-visual course with ebooks, software programs, a textbook, a workbook, and so forth. And it's the same course exactly that I give to Florida Atlantic University as an adult education class in Boca Raton, Florida. So take a look at our website at www.investmentre.com, and you see it on the screen here in front of you. Take a look around. There's a lot of free ideas and help there, and also testimonials from some of our program owners and how they're doing with their estate building program. It could be the most important 10 minutes you'll ever spend in your entire life. Again, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.